Good morning, fourth grade, and welcome to your Monday ELA lesson. So this week we are reading a folk tale called The Fisherman and the Kaha Bird. So a folk tale is sort of similar to a fairy tale, only it's typically a traditional story that's been passed down from generation to generation. And folk tales very often have animals in them that can talk. And folk tales also have a life lesson or a moral that goes along with the story. So, our essential question for the week is: what are some messages and animal stories? We're going to read about how a poor fisherman is helped by the Kaha bird. So, right here, this is the Kaha bird. Notice how its tail feathers are super, super long. We're going to see that in use later on in the story. And we have our fisherman right here in the top right corner. Let's go ahead and start reading. Long ago, there lived an old fisherman who made his pitiful living catching fish. So this word pitiful means something that's very poor. So he did not make a lot of money. All day, the old man sat on the riverbank waiting for the fish to bite, but he never had more than one or two small fish to sell at the market. He and his wife were always hungry. So he does not make a lot of money. He doesn't catch very many fish. So we can see that he is pitiful. One morning, the tired old fisherman trudged slowly to the river. So that word trudged, it means someone, it's almost like this person has really heavy feet because he's moving so slow. It's like he's going somewhere, but he doesn't really want to go. Suddenly, a great bird with bright, dazzling silver feathers settled in the tree above him. So dazzling means it's something that catches your eye. And as you can see, this is a very beautiful bird, so of course he catches your eye. The delighted fisherman knew this was the magnificent Kaha, a glittering bird that occasionally appeared to help the poor or the sick. I see you work for very little reward, the Kaha said. I wish to help. Every day I will bring a large fish to your house that you can sell at the market. So this is almost like this is a legend, because according to a legend from this country, this Kaha bird only shows up to help people who need him. The old man couldn't believe his luck. As the days passed, the honest Kaha kept her promise. So, honest, meaning this bird always tells the truth and always sticks to her word. The fisherman sold the fish and came home with plenty of food. Soon he was bringing home clothing made from brightly colored silk fabric for his wife. So, something we should know, silk was usually only worn by people who had money. So that means he went from being poor to being rich. At the market one day, the Shah's crier made an announcement. So a Shah is a ruler. It's similar to a king. And a crier was someone who made announcements for the Shah. Find the great Kaha for our eminent Shah and receive a reward of 50 bags of gold. So we're going to try to find this bird. I wonder why they want the bird. Okay. The fisherman thought, if I had 50 bags of gold, I would be rich. But how can I betray the bird? He argued with himself until finally his greed for gold blinded him to the generosity of the Kaha bird. So he got greedy. He wanted more, even though he already had what he needed. He was able to buy new clothes. He had food, but it was not enough for him. He wanted even more than what the Kaha bird had gotten him. And generosity, notice that there's a word in there that we kind of recognize, the word generous. So generosity means that this bird was willing to help him and willing to give enough to help him. So when someone's generous, they willingly help other people. He told the Shah's crier about the Kaha and requested or asked assistance in catching her. He asked for 400 men to help him. That evening, 400 servants followed the fisherman home. They hid among the trees as the fisherman set out a feast to tempt the bird. When the Kaha landed in a tree, the old man said, "Come dine with me, dear friend. I wish to express my gratitude." So gratitude means he was thankful or grateful. At least that's what he told the bird. The Kaha, touched by the fisherman's kindness and attracted to the delicious meal, flew down to join him. Immediately, the fisherman grabbed the Kaha by the feet and cried out to the servants to help him. The startled Kaha spread her wings. So she was caught off guard. She wasn't expecting this. She began to fly up with the fisherman pulling at her. So that's what we see happening over here. So we have our fisherman here grabbing onto her feet, and we have all these people holding on to each other. It's like they're making a chain. So even with all these people pulling at her, they can't seem to catch her. So a servant caught the fisherman by the feet, but the bird rose higher. A second and a third servant grabbed onto the first until soon 400 servants hung by one another's feet as the Kaha soared upward. So she kept flying up. I wonder how the Kaha bird feels about the fact that this fisherman was so convincing and said, "I want to thank you for what you did for me." And yet, as soon as she landed, all these people tried to catch her. I wonder how she feels. Looking down, the fisherman could just barely see the river below. If he hadn't betrayed the Kaha, he would not be in this predicament. So predicament is like when someone says that they're stuck in a difficult situation. So a difficult situation that they can't get out of. That's a predicament. There was but one thing to do. The fisherman let go of the great bird's feet. The servants and the fishermen tumbled from the sky and landed in the river. So he got up so high that he couldn't see anything. So that's pretty high up. And they had no choice but to let go. But at least they landed somewhere soft. It was many weeks before the fishermen had healed enough to fish again. Okay, so they fell onto water from a great height. So, of course, the fisherman doesn't get out of that without being hurt. And he was hurt enough that he couldn't work or make money. Every day, the old fisherman looked up at the sky for a sign of the beautiful silver bird, but the Kaha was never seen again. Okay, so we're going to discuss the theme of this. So we see that we have this bird here that was really kind to this man who needed help in making money, and yet he was offered something, 50 bags of gold, and because he was greedy, he decided, even though this bird helped me, I think I want the 50 bags of gold more. So basically what he did was he sold out the bird. He gave her up and he tricked her. And because of that, and as we know and as we've learned, there are consequences for our choices. there were consequences for this man's choices. So, because he tried to catch the bird, he ended up getting hurt because they had to let go when the bird had soared up really, really high. And because he couldn't fish, that's how he makes his money. Because he couldn't fish, he wasn't able to work. And that's not good. So he lost money. And on top of that, the bird never came back. So there was no chance to make that right. Okay, so now that we've discussed all that, you should have enough information to be able to identify the theme of this story. And you should also be able to pick out some evidence from this to support that theme. And that is it for today's lesson.